Liberation Day, Reciprocal Tariffs, Global Trade. It's been in the news a lot recently. It's confusing. Some of the answers can be hard to get. Hopefully I can share a few answers today. I'm Greg, an enterprise account manager in the freight forwarding space. I'm here to talk about global trade. I think this can be a weekly video. I'll call it Greg Talks Trade. Things we need to talk about in this first weekly video are the reciprocal tariffs and how they affect different countries, the new automotive tariffs, how all the tariffs in play that we've been hearing about recently stack together and sometimes don't, and hopefully a little silver lining at the end. To start off, what are these reciprocal tariffs? They're actually more of a ratio of trade deficits that the Trump administration calculated. They're actually not about what other countries have been tariffing the United States. Starting on April 5th, they announced that it will be a near global 10% on all countries, and on April 9th, it's going to go up to a few country-specific numbers, some as high as 50% on select countries. If you had cargo that departed on the final flight leg or final vessel leg to the U.S. before April 5th, and that cargo arrives before May 27th, you will not have to pay this 10% global tariff that went into effect. However, if it departed before April 5th and arrives after May 27, the 10% will apply. Regarding April 9th and these country-specific numbers that are up to 50% in some situations, they haven't really announced a deadline of when it must arrive by, but right now we just know that if it departed before April 9th, you probably don't have to pay it, but if it departs after April 9th, you will be open to it. Next, I think we need to talk about these automotive tariffs. There is a 25% tariff filed as a 232 tariff that goes into effect on completed automobiles as well as some select auto parts. As a 232, they actually do not stack up with the new country-specific reciprocal tariffs, but they do stack with some tariffs in the past. So those are structured a bit similarly to the steel and aluminum tariffs we saw last month, and it's kind of similar in the way they stack, but not 100% similar. But basically, if you're importing auto parts, cars, or some of those steel and aluminum products that were tariffed last month, they actually do not stack with the reciprocal tariffs that were announced, but they do stack with some of the other ones that we've talked about, that we've heard about in the past as well. So I think we also need to talk about China. They already had 20% tariffs from recent months, and starting April 9th, they'll have an additional 34, which will stack for a total of 54% of recent tariffs on China, which is pretty steep. We also need to remember that it includes Hong Kong and Macau origin. China will be losing de minimis next month. That's the program where you can import products for an entry of commercial value under $800, and they can get in duty-free. This is only ending on China. It's to be determined if there will be a date on other countries of origin with this program ending. This is really impactful because Chinese origin has been utilizing this the most. Companies like Temu or Alibaba, AliExpress, things like this. Kind of these Chinese e-commerce players have been using that a lot to sell things in the US for cheaper. We will see how it turns out. The last thing I want to mention is maybe a silver lining, or at least something that wasn't as negatively impactful on global trade as we were possibly expecting. A couple of things here. Canada and Mexico did get out rather unscathed. They didn't actually get any additional reciprocal tariffs because they already have the 25% from recent months on them. And the USMCA exemption was expected to end, but it looks like it's been increased indefinitely. The other thing I want to talk about that's possibly a silver lining is the Venezuelan oil tariffs. This was not going to be a tariff on Venezuela. It was actually going to be a tariff on kind of their customers. If you're a country that imports oil from Venezuela, China, India, several others, the Trump administration was going to tariff those countries importing from there. It was going to be 25% rumored. And it ended up having no updates. Nothing went through on it. Could go through in the future, but at least not yet. So obviously there is a lot going on. We've got the base rates that have always been there. We've got some older 301s, 201s, some newer 232s. The recent IEEPAs that were hitting China, Canada, Mexico, and now these newer reciprocal tariffs. Some of them, like I said, stack in different ways. There's a lot of nuances to it, and there are even more nuances if you get into some of the other areas of customs and tariffs. If you do things like drawback, if you do things like FTZs, these also play in differently with each tariff. And it's something that you're going to want to be talking to your brokers and your forwarders about to make sure you understand how it's going to work for you. So feel free to send me a DM with any questions or maybe topics for another video. Greg Talks Trade, and see you next time.